Today, we have Lehigh men's basketball head coach, Coach Brett Reed.
Obviously, you guys made the NCAA Tournament, won the Patriot League. I just want to hear about this past season for you, getting to the tournament.
You know, sometimes there's injuries and there's things that outside of your control. You can sit there and cry about it, or you can try to do the next right thing. And that's something that we try to do.
Talking about one specific player that you coached, a star player, CJ McCollum, just had a 30 ball against my Knicks last night. What did you see in CJ's high school film that made you offer him those many years ago?
I probably made the understatement my entire career. I'm like, that guy can really help us. We got to do whatever we can to get him. And, I didn't know he'd be putting up all these points in the NBA.
15-2 game in North Carolina, mostly Duke fans. What was that game like? Obviously, we know the outcome, but just talk about your memories from that game.
Just seeing some of the Duke players back then, the Plumlee brothers, Seth Curry, Austin Rivers, there's a lot of NBA/professional talent that was on the court.
Obviously, NIL has come up since you've been a head coach, but how have you seen the conference just develop over the course of your tenure?
We got people who are bouncing from school to school to school, and that can become somewhat problematic simply because I've been married for a long time. The first sign of trouble, I'm not going to someplace else. If I do really well, I'm not upgrading to a different model. If she's doing really well, she's not upgrading me.
Welcome back to another episode of Not Even D2. I'm your host, KJ Allison, here with my boy and co-host, Naruto Perdomo. You guys know what it is. We're back. Great episode for you guys today. But what's good with you, bro? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Enjoying the great weather that we got right now. Finals week right now at Utica, so pushing through is the start of the week. But doing good so far, getting the work done. But definitely enjoying the weather. What about you?
Ready for finals week to be over, though. I feel like school is just at its most stressful point right now. And every class you're doing similar things at once. So everybody's stressed, and then group projects, you don't know when everyone's correlating or on the same schedule. So definitely stressful time, but me and you, we grinding, getting more content out. So keep going, Brody. Let's talk about this episode today where we talk with Coach Brett Reed. Coach Reed, who's the Lehigh men's basketball head coach. And this is a great episode just because his tenure in the Patriot League, he's been there for 20 years. He's been a coach longer than 20, but been at Lehigh for 20 years. And he's brought the program to a different type of height than previous, before he got there. So for people that don't know, he coached CJ McCollum. He upset Duke in the tournament. We talked about that a lot. But also he just got back to the tournament, first time since 2012. They won the Patriot League. They had a really good year. And Coach Reed is a really humble guy, but I would love to be in a locker room with Coach Reed. He keeps it real. He keeps people accountable. He keeps himself accountable. And for him to be 20 years in and still you can tell his passion, his hard work ethic still to this day. I got a lot of respect for him. And I feel like Lehigh is on its way up still. So there's a lot to be said about Coach Reed and the job he's done over the past 20 years. But what you think about this episode?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great episode. Shout out Coach Reed. Shout out Clark with the SID over there for connecting us with Coach Reed. But I think it was a great episode, bro. He was, CJ always talks about how nice Coach Reed is, and I think you saw that in this interview. I think your point about accountability is right. And I just think having a coach like Coach Reed at, a low major, mid-major school like Lehigh University is providing stability for them, right? You want a coach that is, great across the board. And that's who he is, bro. Obviously, he's been to the tournament, but he's just running a good program and, turning, young men into men through his program that we kind of talked about on the episode. But, they went to the tournament last year. They have expectations, he wants to go back. He talked about, being a runner-up in the years past and how that kind of put a chip on his shoulder. So, like you said, I'm excited to see where they're going next couple of years, and just because of the stability that Coach Reed provides them.
Not all the time you get, when you have special players, it's it's not always that the special player and the coach have like a extreme relationship or a good relationship, but it's cool that like he told us that he was going to Atlanta the other day to watch CJ McCollum, which we definitely got to talk about your Knicks later in the episode. But it's just cool that Coach Reed builds that type of atmosphere in his programs, that connectivity, that chemistry, that love for each other, that they're still connected to this day. So it was definitely a good episode. We talked for a while, so we'll get right into this one. Make sure you subscribe. Go follow us at Not Even D2 on all social medias. And let's hear from Coach Reed.
All right, we are here, man. Another episode of Not Even D2. And today we have Lehigh men's basketball head coach, Coach Brett Reed. How you feeling today, Coach?
Feeling great. I'm pleased to have an opportunity to join you and talk a little bit of basketball, talk a little bit about Lehigh.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun episode. I'm excited to talk for sure. And you guys had 7A practice / lift, whatever you did. So walk us through like what the off-season plans are for you.
Yeah, we were fortunate this year to win our league championship. We're really pleased with the accomplishments of the young men who were in our program and our coaches who supported them to get us to that moment. But, now we're on to preparation for the next season. One shining moment was played. We had our postseason banquet. And now it's like, hey, let's go. So part of that is getting in the gym and getting better. We got guys who are hungry because they're competitive. They want to continue to grow their games. Sometimes it's a matter of just working on their individual skills. Tomorrow I'm going to be in the gym one-on-one with these guys, working on a few things that I think are really developmental. Today we just happen to have our whole team kind of together, working on some offensive concepts. And this time of the year, I love to be creative and see what else can work for us and put guys in positions, because every year your personnel changes a little bit. What's going to be the strengths, where your scoring opportunity is going to be. And it's a good chance to kind of like try it on and empower guys out on the floor with the basketball.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like the summers are sometimes, obviously Hoopers love the season and playing in games, but the summers is really when like some of the real work is done to prepare yourself for that season. So definitely excited to see what summers look like for you guys. I'm interested. So Lehigh University is in Pennsylvania. I'm a senior about to graduate. And, a lot of my friends are telling me now that I'm done with hoops, like you got to get into golfing. You got to get out on the range. Are you a big golfer, Coach? I got to hear about this.
You know what? I love it. I love to be outside, but I don't play that much. And I'm also, it's kind of like tough when you're an athlete because you get competitive. Like if I'm going to go play golf, I want to be good at golf. If I want to be good at golf, you got to be in the lab. You got to spend the time. I don't have that time to spend. I've got 3 children and I want to make sure that I invest in them. And I've been happily married for a number of years to my wife, Kendra. And, I'll do golfing. In fact, this weekend, I went out and played 9 holes. I did like a scramble style with my youngest son. And then my oldest son, he was a senior on our team this year, kind of like going against him. So like we just had fun. It was a good time. The weather was good. So I think golf, you got to be careful with it because it takes a lot of time, sometimes takes a lot of money. So you just got to make sure you pick it and make sure that it works for your lifestyle.
Yeah, for sure. Golf, you got to have a certain type of patience with it too, because you're not going to go out there and be good after 1 month. It's going to take, I've tried, it's going to take a long time for sure. And
come on, KJ, you're a natural athlete. You got it. Just swing the club head, man. You got it.
I appreciate the positivity. And I want to talk a little bit more about like your family, maybe not really about your family, but one thing that I really liked when you guys won, the sideline reporter kind of asked you about getting your son in the game and you kind of got emotional. So kudos to you. Like not all coaches are able to be that present for their family, but you still valuing that. But I'm just curious if you guys have any like trips planned this summer. What's that like going into the off season?
Yeah, you know what? I got to give my wife a lot of credit and my children a lot of credit. They give me permission and the opportunity to coach basketball. Throughout the course of the year, I invest so much of myself into the young people who are in our program. They're our student athletes. My wife opens up her home. We try to do everything we can to help them out and make them feel like there's a home away from home and that we have a family. But it comes at a cost. There's a lot of times my wife would rather us do something else than maybe have me chase basketball. Our kids, although it's been great because I don't go into some office somewhere just counting beans and doing something random. Like they can come into the gym, they can be a part of it, but it still is a sacrifice. It's a lifestyle choice. And I think there was a genuine moment that kind of hit me because I had a chance to do something special with a group of young men, and that's win a championship. But man, I can't tell you what it's like as a dad to be able to do it with your son. I mean, my story's not better, it's not worse, it's just different than a lot of other college coaches because I've been at Lehigh now 19 years as a head coach, 5 years before that as an assistant coach. My kids have grown up in the same community. They haven't moved around like so many coaches do. And, part of the reason I did that as a working professional and a coach that's really competitive, but as importantly as a husband and as a father was to provide some stability for my family. And for us to be able to have children grow up and kind of be in the same community and just kind of help them flourish as young people, I think has been really valuable and something I'm really proud of as a dad. But it was a special moment and it kind of caught me. I think it was allergies maybe in the gym that caught my eyes, but nonetheless, it was pretty special, and I think it's a heartfelt moment because I love my family; they're extraordinarily important to me, and just happy to be able to share the experience with them.
For sure. And it's special. Like everybody needs something to kind of take away from like their main objective. We were actually just talking about this with Coach Steele at Miami of Ohio this morning about like what finds his joy is, coaching his sons. But your joy, one, it's that, but also just like being a family man. So I definitely love to hear that's kind of like your safe spot, even though you spend so much time with the guys in the gym. But let's talk about
Yeah, I would actually add. I know you want to move on to the other question, but I've got a unique advantage because my wife played. Her dad was a coach. My dad was a coach. So like for both of us, it's somewhat natural because we've just been around teams and we've been around that environment for our entire life. So we know the value that it can have pouring in the lives of other people and being available and helping them grow through this very important developmental time in their lives. But, just even having a family background and it not being like a new experience or something that we both had to kind of like figure out, it became much more natural. And because it was more natural, maybe it could be argued it became more effective too.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to transition to like, obviously you guys made the NCAA tournament, won the Patriot League. Sometimes I feel like when you get into the tournament, that kind of gets lost. Like winning a conference tournament is a big thing. So shout out to you. But you guys finished 18-17, but the year didn't really start off like flying colors. You guys were 4-12, I think, to begin the season, maybe 4-11, but it didn't look like you guys were picked 8th in the preseason polls, and then you got to that start. So a complete turnaround, basically. So I just want to hear about like this past season for you, getting to the tournament, how it was preparing for the first 4 game. That's a different thing. You haven't been in the tournament since 2012. So just talk about 2025, 26 season in general.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned all those things. There's a lot of memories that kind of came up in my mind. Each year we kind of do a preseason preview with a reporter. And, this year we were talking about our team and where I thought we could be. And I said to the guy pretty point blank, I'm not blowing smoke. I think we mean top 3 team in this league. And, that person actually covered our championship run. And he also got in touch with me as almost like a follow-up interview. It was like, that was really prophetic. Here you think, you're going to be up there, but it didn't look like it. Well, early on in the year, I'm no different than a lot of these other coaches. Like we need really good players and we had injuries. So we had 3 guys out in our forward position. 2 of them were kind of out from the beginning. One started to work his way back. One we started with, then we lost him. We had a pretty competitive game against Houston and then boom. All right, now as a coach and as a team, we're trying to make decisions. Are we going to play 2 centers together because we don't have any forwards? Are we going to play 4 guards together because we don't have any forwards? Just stylistically, we had to like learn and adjust. And we had some guys that filled in very admirably, but we were close. Like we kept getting pummeled in that position. Like everybody would get their career high against us, career high in rebounds, career high in points. And we're like trying to do it with smoke and mirrors a little bit just because we didn't have the bodies. But we got a little healthier, and this is where the special story is. Throughout all that stuff, it would have been easy for our guys to kind of like fall apart personally or either separate because they didn't believe what we were doing. But they actually came together during adversity. And that's when I knew we could be kind of special. So, we got healthy. Um, and we started to win, and we started to win close games, and guys were gaining in their confidence. It's not like we weren't injured later in the year. It's like a pitcher that scatters a bunch of hits instead of getting rocked for a bunch of runs. They were in different positions. We even had a game, I want to say in February, that our only available perimeter sub was my son, Brendan, who's a walk-on for our program. So 2 days before the game, I'm like, oh no, what are we going to do? We don't have any players. We don't have any bodies available. This is going to be terrible. We're playing against a good team. And we start like getting closer to the game, and dad mode kicked in. And it's like, nobody can yell at me for putting my son in the game. It's going to be a natural thing. So, although we were injured, guys had an opportunity to get new roles. Guys had a chance to try things out, and guys had a chance to kind of pull together. And through that, we ended up making a pretty strong run despite a slower start because of circumstances that were all outside of our control. But what we did take control of was the attitude, the effort, the unity, and all the things that ultimately champions do. And that's what gave us a chance to cut down the nets, hoist a trophy, and, just have a remarkable moment that we could be remembered as champs.
When you talk about, the team being together, fighting through adversity, I feel like we hear a lot of that from college coaches or, championship coaches, like, oh, the team dealt with a lot of adversity. But what does that look like for Coach Reed and Lehigh, like actually dealing with adversity? Is it a culture thing, or is it actually like the kids you recruit? Like, talk about that.
Yeah, I think, first of all, we should just hit the pause button. Adversity is part of life. Like, if you got anybody who's got life experiences, probably not sharing like, hey, everything was smooth sailing all the way through. Curveballs happen. Stuff happens. Not all of it is always pleasant, but we have an opportunity to grow through it and grow from it. And if we approach it the right way, basketball isn't that much different. Sometimes there's injuries and there's things that outside of your control. You can sit there and cry about it, or you can try to do the next right thing. And that's something that we try to do. No matter what hits us, we're going to try to do the next right thing, the thing that we know we need to do. It's great to be able to acknowledge and recognize the circumstances around you, recognize how you feel about it. Don't just push that stuff aside or shove it down, but like, okay, now what? This is where we're at. What can we do? So I think there's a lot of things within our program that we can learn that translate to life. And that's why I'm really pleased to be a coach because, we got a great university here at Lehigh. People come here to learn, to be prepared for their careers, for their future. Well, guess what? We got another classroom, and that's on the court. And through that, we're going to be learning a lot about ourselves, about how to work with teammates, how to set goals, how to handle challenges, sometimes how to handle successes and make sure that you keep level-headed. So, I think it's really a matter of like trying to identify high character people that are really going to buy into it, being intentional and that you're going to like pour into them and help them through some of these experiences, but also keeping it real. Like, stuff's going to happen. And when it happens, you're going to show your true character, your true experiences. And you just want to make sure you show the best.
I mean, talking about bringing high character individuals to the locker room, this is an aspect of your program that I'm kind of interested in because, you mentioned off air to us about the retention rate that your program has. And I feel like you mentioned in a lot of different interviews. So it's clear that you're proud of it. And it's something that you should be proud of because into today's college landscape, like, you don't really see a lot of retention when it comes to, these college basketball teams. So just give me an idea of, your approach to recruiting in 2026, right? Because I see a lot of different Patriot League schools, sometimes recruiting D2 All-Americans, D3 All-Americans, going in the transfer portal a little bit. So I'm just kind of curious on perspective with that and enlighten us a little bit.
Yeah, happy to do it. And just to give context to this listening audience, since we started recording, I think we were tied for top 2 in the country last year in the amount of guys that returned to our program. And it's becoming more abnormal. A lot of my friends, my colleagues, they're really good people and really good coaches. But we got a little bit more of a transient, meaning people are moving from place to place type of college basketball atmosphere. And, sometimes there's from some really good reasons, and sometimes there's reasons that are a little bit different. But all in all, we've been able to secure what our spot is, where people are buying in and developing deep roots within our program and being anchored to this place. And I'll be honest with you, we're pretty intentional about it when it comes to recruiting. I sit down with kids, with their parents, and we talk about what a Lehigh degree means. This is different. It's a great school. Like, if you're going to have the type of educational outcome that we can provide and how that changes your life with an alumni network that's really strong, with a reputation of a degree that's so great, are you really just going to give that up just for small things like playing time where you could earn and build your role up, or some other factors? I want them to really look at this decision with maturity. I also take a little bit of a different approach in recruiting. Like, I don't come in with a sell. I come in with the reality, and I try to be as real as I can be about the ups and the downs and everything that goes into making a team. And sometimes we are able to accomplish all our goals, and sometimes we're not, but we try to do it together. And I approach it more like a player coach relationship early on, even though we don't know each other like that, than a recruiter recruit relationship. Because I just don't want them in an experience where they're in our program and they're scratching their head, 6 months or a year later, like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'd rather be crystal clear, even if that means we don't come on as strong, or, tell them they're the best thing, go in and really like try to pump their tires. We try to keep it real. Like, I'll recognize the strengths that they have, but I also want them to be realistic that there's going to be some things that they got to grow through. And for the parents as well, that not everything is sunshine and roses every single day. But if we're committed to what we're trying to do, we want to get that degree. We want to build for our future. We're willing to try to do it hand in hand and do it as a partnership together. Even if there are those times where things are rough, we're going to take steps forward, and we're going to be better because of it, as a program, as a player, and in cases like people are going to grow up within our program as well.
Yeah, what you're saying kind of makes me think about, when people say they'd rather have their enemy closer to them than like a fake friend, because the enemy is going to be outright honest with you. And I'm not saying you're the enemy, but the fact that you're willing to tell players, like, yeah, it's not going to be all sunshine and roses. If you come here, there's going to be adversity, but ultimately I want what's best for you. So I can see that. But one thing I was curious about, Coach, I don't know when he said this, but Coach K said when you first got hired, I don't know maybe how long into your tenure, but he said he's building a program that can withstand one of sports' ultimate challenges, the test of time. So, like, how have you because this has been 20 years now, you're going into your 20 years, how have you kind of developed that type of culture or that type of mindset as a coach?
Well, I think it starts with why you coach. Like, as a young person, I had to figure out, well, why do you want to coach? If you're just coaching for kicks, or coaching for wins, or you're coaching for this or that, that has a different slant. Like, my dad was a coach. I was a little kid in the gym with him. I was the same kid that his former players came back and would come to the house and tell him what they're doing now in their lives and the type of impact that he made. A lot of these guys that played for my dad still consider me like their little brother. So, like, I knew how his influence was really important to help them grow and help them at a time when it was really important in their lives. And, I'm going to try to do it. I can't reach everybody, and people are going to have different experiences, obviously, but the reason I'm coaching is because I want these kids to grow, these young men to grow and be prepared for their future. And I want to just try to help as best I can. And because of that, I think there's a lot of love and care that goes into it, a lot of commitment. My faith is also important to me. I'm a Christian. As a Christ follower, I want to see what I can do to show love and the image of Jesus to other people to the very best of my ability. And, basketball is just a medium. It's something that somebody I get in touch with and get a chance to share time with loves, and I love. And so through that, we get a chance to share something that we both care about, talk about the future, and continue to grow. And, maybe that's a foundation, a little bit of that cultural piece. And then every day I just want to show up, and I got to work my tail off here, man. Like, it is hard to win a game. It's hard to win a championship. It's hard I think we've been top 4 in our conference 13 of the last 15 or 16 years, non-COVID impacted. Like, we've had some consistency of success, but like I got to show up every day, and I gotta bust my tail. And if it's I'm gonna be in the gym at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm gonna leave at 8 o'clock at night, that's what I got to do. But meanwhile, like any extra time I have, I'm gonna commit to my kids, my wife, my family, and just kind of go from there. But I think the intentionality is there. I think the care is there, and I just want to be consistent with everything I do. And one of the things that I got to realize is I'm made to be who I am, and I just want to be the best version of myself as I appear for other people.
I love that, coach. And I think that truly speaks to why Lehigh University has a high retention rate in terms of the program, because you're building a program around care, trust, right? Like intentionality. Like players can feel that when a coach, we talked about a coach Steele, like KJ mentioned, players can feel when a coach is truly invested in their growth, both as a basketball player, but both as a human as well. So it's no surprise at all, coach. Uh,
I'll say this, over the years, if I've ever looked back, now I don't think about the games that I won or lost or what ended up happening. I think about the people that maybe I could have touched in a better way than I did.
yeah,
I've continued to grow day after day, week after week, and year after year as this coach. I hope I get this thing right, but we're all a work in progress. And I just want to continue to grow so I can make those experiences great for those that I have an opportunity to join the journey with.
I love that. I love that, coach. And, talking about one specific player that you coached, a star player, CJ McCollum, guard for the Atlanta Hawks right now, just had a 30 ball against my Knicks last night. Efficient and elite 30 ball at that. But I want to talk about, basically we're going to have a couple questions about CJ. KJ has one as well. But CJ mentions a lot in interviews that Lehigh was a second Division I offer, and Bowling Green was another one he mentions as well. So talk about, what did you see in CJ's high school film that made you offer him those many years ago?
Well, he's a fantastic player. And as great of a player as he is, he's an even better person. Anybody who's had an opportunity to come in contact with him would recognize that he's just got that special ingredient. Like he makes things better around him. The Hawks are a great example. He got there, and what they start doing, winning. The NBA and the organization as a players association president, like he did a great job leading. Like he's just a genuine person that I have not only a great deal of care for, but a ton of respect for because of the way in which he's made and who he is. As far as his recruiting process was concerned, I'm fortunate to surround myself with some really good coaches. One coach I had with us at that time was Matt Logie. Matt Logie came in my office and he's talked about this kid in Ohio who had 50 points as a junior. And we both like, hey, if anybody who can get 50 points in a game, a regular high school game with 32 minutes, like we got to at least check him out and see him. So, time ends up going by. We have a chance to see him in the AAU circuit. He played on a stacked team. They were really good, but he had a pretty meaningful role, and he played. And, I just watched him, and I probably made the understatement my entire career. I'm like, that guy can really help us. We got to do whatever we can to get him. And, I didn't know he'd be putting up all these points in the NBA. Like that's almost ridiculous. But I knew in my heart, like out of everybody out there, like that guy is a guy that we could, should, and have to go after. And we'll see what ends up happening. Fortunately for us, there was people didn't recognize the value that we recognized in it. We saw some greatness in him, and we saw something that would really work for us. It didn't take long for everybody else to notice what we had seen, but I don't know, maybe he was invisible out there because he played in front of everybody. He just, I just thought there was something special about his feel. I thought there was something special about his like competitiveness. We also did our background and our research, and we realized not just his dad, but his brother had like a late growth spurt. If he wouldn't have grown an inch, we would have had a great player. But imagine if he did, and just how much better he'd be.
Yeah, CJ's special. Like even today, I think when he was with Washington, people were kind of under the assumption that he was on the downhill, but now you're seeing in the playoffs, like, he's still the same, and there's a lot of similarities. I was saying this to you, like, in his game at Lehigh versus now, obviously, his skill has gotten better, but the way he plays is relatively the same, and I wanna hear one thing because, yeah, he was killing in the Patriot League, like, first year, he was player of the year, but it's still a difference, like, do I have an NBA player or not? So I'm kinda curious when you started to think like, "Oh, this kid could actually be an NBA player or star, whatever."
It was kind of a funny story, and it's gonna sound bad, but we had a league coach that was kinda, like, saying, like, "Hey, this guy might be an NBA player." And I'm like, "Man, he's just trying to gas him up so that way he messes up our team dynamics and all that type of stuff." But then I paused for a second, I started thinking about it, like, you know what? He is really good. So, um, you know, I don't know. I just have such an incredible regard for people who are playing at the highest level of basketball in the entire world. When you think about an NBA player and you're a kid, it's like they're up there on a pedestal. Like these guys are awesome, just awesome, unbelievable players. So I take that mindset. Now I look what he's doing in the NBA and has been doing it for a decade plus. And it's like, man, we at Lehigh, myself included, were in the presence of greatness. One of the greatest players that probably ever played the game. You know, when you start talking about that upper echelon, and what a privilege it was to kind of like share basketball with him.
Yeah, I mean, when you look, I was gonna say when you look at the stats, I think he was leading the country in scoring, 23.9 points per game on the Lehigh website I saw. So when you're doing that, I mean, that's definitely NBA right there. What are you gonna say, KJ?
Yeah, but well, to bounce off that, that was his senior year. He actually got hurt that year, so he didn't finish the year. I see the look in your face, coach. That one hurts. But what I was curious about is like the Patriot League. We had Coach Paulson on the podcast like a few years ago. The Patriot League back then was probably at its peak. I'm not too familiar with what you think about that, but like Mike Muscala versus CJ McCollum, those games must have been intense. You guys obviously did something unremarkable, upsetting Duke in the tournament. So I was just curious if you could walk through some of like your favorite memories. But I just wanted to also say like for the audience, CJ McCollum's career. So his first year, Patriot League Player of the Year, and led the freshman like whole country in scoring, all the freshmen. Second year, he was ninth in the country in scoring, the whole country. But Muscala won Player of the Year. Real quick, Coach, do you think who was Player of the Year that year?
In my opinion?
Yeah.
Oh, you don't even have to ask CJ every day. Now, Mike, he was a great player.
Mm-hmm.
There's no shade in me saying that, but CJ's my guy.
Yeah. All right. So then third year, he was fifth in the country in scoring and won Patriot League Player of the Year again. So that's 2 out of 3 years. And then his final year, he got hurt. Mike Muscala got Player of the Year that year. So it's kind of crazy that those were the NBA guys in your league and they like traded Player of the Year. But yeah, walk us through like some of your favorite memories. You could talk about the Duke game a little bit too.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned about the scoring, and I'll give you some insights the way CJ's wired, in the way in which we could kind of like talk real. You know, every year he started adding layers of his responsibilities in our program. At first, you know, we had great players like Zaire Carrington and Marquise Hall who brought a young player in. Like they were going to be like the best in the league. But instead of being like selfish about it, they said, hey, this guy, come on, let's feature you and let's put you in a position where you can be great. And that shows the type of unselfishness and what they were able to do as far as building a culture around like, you know, just winning and valuing championships. Well, that carries over to CJ. You know, we talked at the end of his sophomore year, and it was like, you know, CJ, with everybody who was graduating, you could very easily lead the entire country in scoring, and we could have a good team. But if you were to tone that down and bring other guys up with you and even build their confidence, even during the non-conference portion of the schedule, so they're prepared in those pressure moments, like we got a chance to be even a better team. And without hesitation, he's like, yeah, absolutely. That's what I want. Like, think about it. You can lead the entire country in scoring. Like, we could have set that up, but instead he put a value on winning. And then we start crafting like plans to do it. And I don't know if you know the old story about the Pied Piper. He play a pipe and everybody would follow him or whatever it is. I don't know. nursery rhyme type of thing, whatever it is. But like, he was a Pied Piper who brought everybody in the gym with him. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to share the ball, you got to be in the gym with me and you got to get shots up with me. And so not only did his work ethic make him better, but then he demanded it of the guys around him in a loving way. Where now, okay, well, if I'm not going to lead the country in scoring and I make this choice between this shot, which I know is a really good shot, and passing it to you, I just got to have enough trust that you put in the time, you put in the work, so you can make that, because winning's the priority. But that's the type of kid he is, and that translates. And not only did that make the players around him better, there were times where people had to make plays where he couldn't make it by himself. But then you go into the NCAA tournament, we're playing against Duke. Like, they got a lot of great players. It's not like CJ and then a bunch of unproven guys who were on his team. We had other guys who stepped up big time and played and showed that they were in that moment and could really compete and really play. CJ led the charge because everybody believed in what he could do, and we knew in a pressure situation he could come through. But we also knew we had other great guys, and he had helped them build their confidence. He had helped them build a team. He had invested in so many other people around him to make that team great versus just what he could have done by himself.
It's bigger than just one person for sure. And CJ, he understood that. And I wanted to circle back on the Duke game because you talked about, putting people on a pedestal. And, obviously I'm not in the coaching world, but Coach K is a legend. He's a Hall of Fame coach. And again, you're a peer of his, so you're probably not putting him on a pedestal when you're playing against him. But
sure, I am. That guy is awesome. Are you kidding me? USA basketball coach. What he did with Duke, he's a fantastic coach.
All right. So to continue with that, then you're putting him on that pedestal, Hall of Fame coach. You guys are in Greensboro, North Carolina. if I'm not mistaken, where the game was played. 16 seed versus a 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken.
15-2.
15-2. Thank you, KJ. Good shout. So 15-2 game in North Carolina, mostly Duke fans. What was that game like? Obviously, we know the outcome, but just talk about your memories from that game.
Well, it was special for me because I lived in Greensboro for 3 years. My first job in Division I basketball, I volunteered as a director of basketball operations. I didn't get paid anything. They gave me a pair of shoes, sweatpants, and occasionally I'd eat some pregame meals with them. Like, that's what it was in order for me to kind of like break in and coach basketball. And that was in Greensboro at UNCG. And then I went to High Point University, and it was really special because the coach that I even coached under came to that game and came over to our practice. And, I had friends. We had a church and relationships. We had like a lot that was there. Like Kendra and I, my wife, part of our life was there. And then to be able to come back and just compete, it's like, okay, let's go. But our guys were fired up for the game. They thought they could win. They believed in themselves. We went into that environment, and, nobody's thinking that Lehigh's going to win. I will say this. There were a lot of Carolina fans, and if you don't know, Carolina fans don't really like Duke. So if we made anything happen, they were going to start jumping on our bandwagon really quick. And the game just kept progressing. The very first play of the game, we've been working on our defensive concepts and what we were going to do. And, hey, this is the way we're going to slow them down. One of the Pumley brothers just pass faked like this, where our guy jumped, and he just went one dribble and probably took off from the free throw line and just dunked on our team. And I'm like, oh, no, this is going to be a long night. But, our guys got grounded again, and they just continued to play together, and then they just battled and competed and, believed. And, that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament. Like, you tip it up, anything can happen. It's not a 7-game series. It's not a 5-game series. It's who's better at that particular moment in time. And for us, Duke had a great team. But I felt like we had a great team as well, of guys who were really battle-tested, that were experienced enough. And, they believed in what we were trying to do, and they believed in each other. And, we just kind of kept in that game. And as it goes further, like, Duke expects to be able to just wipe you, like get you off the court. Any of those big teams do. But the more you kind of like hang around, the more it's like, oh, this is real. Like, we got to go. And the more that goes, the more your guys kind of buy in and believe. And now all of a sudden it's just like a game, just like any other game that's super competitive. Yeah, the stage is different. There's more eyes on it, but the beauty of it is just basketball. 5 guys out there at a time going at it to the best of their ability.
That energy though, like, we had Coach Tobin Anderson on like 2 years ago, I think, Kay. And, obviously he was part of that legendary upset with FDU and Purdue. And he talked about just the energy in the arena. Like he was like, everybody in the arena was just starting to roll with FDU because they were the underdog beating Purdue. And he was talking about how Purdue, they were kind of losing their mind a little bit. So it's always interesting to hear the backdrop of some of these NCAA tournament games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give the Duke team credit. Like they didn't lose their minds. Like they didn't fall apart. Like they actually battled and competed, and we couldn't get rid of them. Like we wanted to be able to have it kind of like fall apart, but as well coached as they are, as talented as they were, as much as they had like that culture piece that we had talked about in the beginning, like we had to earn it like for 40 straight minutes. There was no like letdown.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just I was watching the game, like the highlights of the game, and just seeing some of the Duke players like back then, the Plumlee brothers, Seth Curry, Austin Rivers, like there's a lot of NBA/professional talent that was on the court. So for you to kind of upset, well, not kind of, you upset them. That's a legendary feat that you should always keep in the back of your head. I know you're not going to be like, oh, that's the highlight of my career, but I definitely respect when coaches can get in the tournament and make like headlines or something shake. So that was cool for sure.
Yeah, you're always chasing excellence, you want to compete against the best. And that particular night, we were able to do it, and it's a special memory that we'll always have. I'm really pleased that I was allowed to join that journey with that group of people, from players to coaches and everybody who supported us. And, it's a great memory. One of many great memories, but, it's interesting. I'm kind of like recapping the game and thinking about it, and everything comes back, and the energy, and, I got a big smile right now. But the thing that I remember most is the people who were part of the journey, which is cool.
That's I'm like I said, I'm about to, leave Utica, the school I'm at right now, and I'm thinking about, the past journey with hoops and stuff like that. My junior year, it all floods back eventually. But, I wanted to talk more about, Lehigh University specifically. Like KJ mentioned, you've been over there for well over 20 years, longest tenured coach in the Patriot League. How have you seen, obviously NIL has come up since you've been a head coach, but how have you seen the conference just develop over the course of your tenure as head coach of Lehigh University?
Yeah, I think, you just look at the environmental factors that are going on in college sports. And, not all of it is bad. These players are awesome. They compete at a super high level collegiately. They bring notoriety and attention to universities. They play on TV, they represent us and represent academic departments very, very well in most cases. And for a long time, there wasn't a lot of compensation. So, I'm not against players being able to share in some of that revenue. The one thing, because of my thoughts as an educator, though, is we got people who are bouncing from school to school to school, and that can become somewhat problematic simply because, like, I've been married for a long time. I love my wife. And, the first sign of trouble, I'm not going to someplace else. If I do really well, I'm not upgrading to a different model. If she's doing really well, she's not upgrading me. Like we're together, and there's something to be said about commitment and loyalty and those type of things. But it's also one of those things where every time you transfer, you lose credit hours and an opportunity to get a degree. And I just want the young people that are involved in college sports to learn, to grow, to engage, to love the passion of the game, to find out more about themselves and working part of a team. But I want all of them to be able to build skills that are going to help them for their future and for their life. Just because I'm an older person that's a little bit further down that road, I want them to have the skills. So, like, let's say, like, you like to win when you're 18 to 22 years old. That's probably not going away. What are you doing when you're 38? Because basketball, Father Time's undefeated. Okay, like there comes a point where you're going to be done playing, And then what do you do next? I just want all this generation of people to be prepared with skills that they developed in college. So that way, when basketball's done, they're ready to kind of like hit it, if that makes sense. I know that's a lot, and I don't mean to sound too like philosophical with it, but the reality, it goes back to what are we providing for these people? Let's give them the best opportunity possible. Let's celebrate the ways in which they support college athletics, something that we celebrate, we enjoy watching. We bring notoriety to universities and it brings alums back. So everyone's got a sense of pride. But let's also make sure like they're well cared for and they're taken care of, that they understand even financially, if they do get money, like how are they investing it? Like for these people right now, just with the time value of money and compounding interest, if they were smart with that money, a lot of these people, they could retire at age 50 and never have to worry about money. Like, yeah, go play, do that, work, and continue to pour into it. But like, if you invest that money, like imagine how your future could be different. Imagine what you could do for your children and your children's children with that base money that most people can't ever accumulate at this age. Like you got to work decades to be able to even have the thought of earning some of the money that these people are earning. I just hope that they could use it wisely so they use their money and their money doesn't use them.
Yeah, it may seem like what you just said is kind of like negative, but again, you'd rather someone be honest, and that's what you're doing. Like that, those are really good points. If you transfer all over, it's going to be harder to get a degree, and then you're getting so much money, but then you leave that school and you have no more money because you were just buying a car, buying this and that. So you didn't really build anything by going to this new school or going to a high major. So I like that for sure. And this will be our last question before we get into rapid fire. You just got your 300th win, so congrats to you. That's a big time mark in your career. Just I'm curious to hear some of the pivotal moments in your career. It could be good or bad ones that kind of like shaped Coach Reed as a coach and what kept him going throughout all this time.
Okay, pivotal moments. I'm a kid, I'm in the gym, and I got a chance to see a great coach and my dad help people. Next, I transitioned and I had a chance to coach with my dad. And I knew what to do from being in his gym. I learned why he did what he did by being on the sidelines with him, which was incredible. Then I have an opportunity. Fran McCaffrey, who's currently the head coach at Penn, took me on, a guy who didn't have the background, but gave me a chance and an opportunity to be involved in Division I basketball. Then I had an opportunity. Jerry Steele at High Point University gives me a chance. Now I'm like the only full-time coach on the staff trying to figure out how to make things happen. Billy Taylor invites me up here. Joe Starrett, our athletic director, gives me an opportunity with a job. Ed Melberg, my high school coach, really poured into me during that time. So like there's a lot of people and phases that built this career. Now, while I've been here, we've had some high moments. We've also had some times I'm looking, and prior to this year, I intentionally kept 3 runner-up trophies for the Patriot League Championship on my desk as a reminder, like, hey, like, we got to get over the hump. Like, we had been in the championship game multiple times in the last 10 years, but we hadn't won it till this year. So, like, the continual grind to continue to get better. And I've worked with some great people. And then there's also been some times where our team dynamics weren't quite right. And that became very dangerous as well. But still being able to put trust into people and lead them and guide them and continue to build a team that's together. So, there's highs, there's lows in anybody's journey. But for us, when it's all said and done, I'm just thankful for the people who gave me an opportunity, the people I had a chance to do the journey with, and for the background and the upbringing that I had.
I love that, coach, and I definitely am a Lehigh University fan. Next
Let's
season,
go.
yeah, you got me locked in, coach. So definitely expecting some big things out of you guys next year. But we're gonna get into rapid fire. You ready for rapid fire, coach?
I don't know, man. I'm not the swiftest off going and just riffing off the top of my head, but I'll try.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So first
Okay.
rapid fire question: top 3 favorite arenas that you've ever been in college basketball.
Oh, great
Bes-
question. Stabler,
Beside,
number one,
yeah,
because it gets rocking when we're winning. Okay, I'm not
yeah,
going to overlook that.
yeah.
We ended up playing, I believe, like Purdue was wild. They were all over the place. And that was a great environment. And another one's personal. Tom Izzo gave us a chance to play Michigan State when they had Draymond Green, and I'm from Michigan. So for me, being able to come home, compete against Sparty, like it was pretty cool.
That definitely is pretty cool moment for sure. So are you, you're from Michigan. Did you grow up a Michigan State or University of Michigan fan?
You know what? Everybody picked one or the other. I was kind of on the fence. I liked Steve Smith when he was at Michigan State, but then I also liked some of the Michigan teams and everything. So I didn't have that team.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Next rapid fire question I got for you. So, longest tenured coach in the Patriot League. Who have been some of your favorite coaches that you've ever like competed against in the Patriot League?
Oh, man. This league has got some awesome coaches
100%.
and has had just like great basketball minds. Ralph Willard was phenomenal back at Holy Cross. Pat Flannery won at Bucknell. Dave Paulson, who you mentioned earlier, did a great job. I mean, we've got current coaches that it's like a chess match trying to figure out how to get any sort of advantage. So I could look historically, or I could look at like the host of coaches that do such a great job now. I got nothing but respect for all these guys.
Definitely a lot of great talent in the Patriot League. Last rapid fire question. So this is kind of a homecoming question for me because I have a lot of family in the Lehigh Valley, like Allentown and Bethlehem and stuff. So what is your favorite, because I'm definitely going to visit them soon, favorite spot to eat at in Allentown so I can go to it? Or in Lehigh Valley, I should say.
Well, I'd say Mama Nina's is on point. It's on the north side, little small Italian place. It is so good. The portions are huge. So that's a great spot. My wife and I like going over to Thai food a little bit, and there's a place called White Orchid and the Promenade Shops, beautiful outdoor shops. I can keep on going. I give plug to a lot of our businesses out here. The Goose, if you ever want a sandwich, you got to come to the Goose. It's like they got a crazy secret menu and everything. And Tony and Deb have been making sandwiches for years. It's just like it's a great, what you would imagine a college sandwich shop.
Nah, that
Yeah. I was
um,
going to say, I'm a foodie, y'all, so I have to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
and then I got two rapid fire for you. The first one is, so another interesting nod is you became one of only two Division I men's basketball head coaches to hold a doctoral degree. So you got your PhD. That's big time. What it's in instructional technology. So just, I guess it's not really a rapid fire question, but explain that a little bit.
I was about to say, I don't know how to explain how I got there, rapid fire style. Okay. So I was thinking about coaching. Well, in my mind, coaching, you kind of had to teach maybe so you can make a living. I tried to get I got a teaching certificate, and I talked to the people that I was working with and I'm like, hey, I'd like to try coaching in college. And like, well, what makes you think you're going to get one of those jobs? And I'm just a young guy. I'm like, yeah, I know basketball. I'm going to work really hard. Let's go. And they're like, yeah, but so is everybody else. Like, why don't you make yourself distinctive? Why don't you stay here? Why don't you get a PhD? You'll do assistantships. You won't have to pay for it. We'll help you. And like, I didn't want to do any more school. That's the last thing I wanted to do. But I was fortunate to listen to people who had some wisdom and some life experiences ahead of me. And they said, okay, well, if I make the small investment now, it's going to have a big trade-off later. I'll never have to coach basketball because I don't have anything else to do. In fact, maybe I'll teach and coach at a school, and that'll be my ticket to get a job. So I sucked it up. I invested in myself, even though I didn't want to do it. And, one thing led to another, and that's part of the reason I mentioned about volunteering at UNC Greensboro. Well, I was getting a fellowship. I was getting paid, but I was just getting paid for my doctorate degree in order to do that. So if I don't do that, I don't take that next step. If I don't take that next step, I don't take the next step, and then I'm never here, and this conversation isn't ever happening. So I listened to people that had a great life experience that loved me and cared about me and gave me a different perspective, and I was willing to invest in myself and almost double down early to get something done, even though I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, that's special. I mean, I think everybody can relate that to whatever type of stage of life they're in. Like sometimes you need to, take the back seat for a little bit so you can get to the front seat, if that makes sense. And then my last rapid fire is, If you had one guest you would want to see on Not Even D2, who would it be? But you have to help us get them on.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. Oh, that's such a good question. Because now you're putting me in the spot because I can't say like Coach K because I don't know how to help you get him on, or CJ because I don't know how to help you get him on.
Hey, we had Duncan Robinson on, so CJ trying to get on it in this summer during the off season. We'll go to him.
Yeah, yeah. I think you guys do a great job, and I think you're on. You like. I'm really impressed by the research that you've done, your thoughtfulness of your questions, and your perspective on what you're trying to do. Like the fact that you're a professional about this and this interview was really well done speaks a great deal about both of you. It speaks a great deal about like your preparation, your professionalism. So anybody who comes on a guest on this show is, it's a privilege to be able to join you and spend a little time talking some hoops.
Yeah, that's special. That's the best way we've ever outroed this show. So we appreciate that big time. Those are special words coming from a legend himself and Coach Reed. We appreciate you spending the time with us. It's been a wonderful conversation. And like Ruda said, we're going to be supporting Lehigh. So best of luck moving forward, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
That's going to do it for our conversation with Coach Reed. Just listening back to the episode and hearing like how we ended it and how the props that Coach Reed gave us was special. I don't, that's not lost on me. Something like a long tenure coach in the Patriot League, one of the best in the Patriot League, giving us that props. Like there's a lot of respect mutually. So that's cool. And one quick statistic, Coach Reed owns a 52.5 career winning percentage, which is the highest in Patriot League history. So he's up there to be like one of the GOATs. Maybe he doesn't have as many Patriot League championships as he'd probably want or as, in quotes, the GOAT would have, but to have that winning percentage, to change that program, to bring a lot of NBA/professional talent into the room, like he's got to be in those conversations. So I just thought this was a really good episode.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was kind of funny. He talked about, the battles between Mike Muscala and CJ McCollum in the Patriot League. I thought that was kind of funny because they were both playing. You have two NBA players playing in the Patriot League at the same time. You don't really see that too much today. I also thought, Coach Reed loved, bringing up the point about the retention rate, and that's, really huge in college basketball. And I think that definitely should be noted because if you have a high retention rate, it means that players want to be there and stay around you. So.
That's still the recipe for mid majors and low majors. Like high majors, yeah, they can be a little bit more transactional. Even then, like it'll still be hard to win, but that's still the sweet spot for mid majors. Hope coaches realize that. But obviously, NBA is big right now. We love talking about it. And first rounds at its peak. A lot of series are competitive, some upsets. Obviously, it's not over. Only one team got bounced. What my Thunder had to do to the Suns, and maybe that'll change too. Other teams are on the brink of elimination before Thursday. We're recording this on Tuesday. But just give me some of your overall quick thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, bro. I mean, first of all, really excited to watch the Lakers close out the Rockets. They put on a masterclass. I think LeBron took this series personally because apparently he's not like a huge fan of Ime Udoka. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And Marcus Smart has been killing for them. It hurt my heart to watch the Pistons game last night. To be honest, man, like the offense looked pretty rough, and I felt like while Cade was out, it was going to help them because they don't have to rely on him to score so much, and they have to figure out ways to score without Cade, but clearly it hasn't really like helped them at all because they're still scoring like under 90, and it feels like no one can hit a shot sometimes. Okay, the Nuggets Timberwolves series has been crazy, so a lot of good series, bro. And my Knicks, but we about to close them out though today. Or no, it's about to go up 3-2 today, but we good.
Yeah, I don't know, bro. That series is competitive. That I feel like with the Knicks is really without, if Brunson's not hitting shots, the next guy is always in question, and that's kind of scary, bro. Like OG's playing his out of his mind right now, which you've been talking highly about OG. You know that he's capable of that, but I don't know if I'm trusting, especially late in later rounds. Like I think that they'll get out of this series unscathed, but in later rounds, you're gonna need Cat to be at his best. You're gonna need Brunson to be a little more efficient. So I don't know the ceiling for New York, but the Pistons, bro. I said this in the beginning of the year, but like I was questioning their big room, and you were like B-ball Paul. But anyways, Jalen Duren, he's been basically bad. I don't want to sit like boil it down to that, but he had 8 points in their first two losses, and yesterday he had like 12 points. Like, bro, you were getting all NBA nominations. People were voting for you. You can't get into the playoffs and put on this type of performance, get outplayed by Wendell Carter. Like, that's not all-star level. That's not all NBA caliber. Like the same type of thing I want to talk about the Suns too. Devin Booker, like I'm a Book fan, but watching him this series was pretty disgraceful. The amount of complaining he was doing, he was playing almost like he forgot he was an all-star. Like getting out like Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks taking more shots than him, like that's not acceptable. And yeah, the Thunder they do a lot in the gaps. Their main focus was Book, but you're the best player in the team. The team isn't gonna score a lot of points relying on Dylan Brooks to be the guy. So it's some of these players that they were like here this season, they were on top, not the best in the league, but they were all NBA caliber. They're not when the lights got bright, they're kind of hiding from in the shadows. So it's cool to kind of see how like the top players actually rise. Io DeSumo's doing better. There's a lot of underrated guys. Even Bones Highland coming off the bench with like 15 last night. So there's guys that rise in this type of moment, and there's guys that kind of hide. So it's cool to see who's like that and who's not. To be honest, if you have any last thoughts.
No, for sure. It's definitely playoff risers, bro, and we're seeing a lot of them, right now. So I'm really interested to see how some of these, next rounds play out. Especially, Lakers is one I'm looking at, especially because, what does Luka look like? What does AR look like? The Knicks will play the Celtics next round, right? If they win.
2-3, yeah.
Yeah, so that matchup is always going to be interesting, and then that Cavs Raptors series, man. That game 4 was a fire game. I don't know if you were able to watch it. It was tough. A lot of good defense. So
Yeah, it's funny, like, people always talk about, oh, the NBA, like, they don't play no defense, and then you get those games where it's 38-36 at half, and people like, this is horrible basketball. So it's like you gotta keep it
pick a
consistent with
side.
what. Yeah, exactly. Real quick, we'll go through each series that is still going, who you got. So Nuggets Timberwolves, Nuggets down 3-2 as we're recording. Who you think takes that one? No, and Dante for the rest of the series.
Nuggets in 7.
Nuggets is 7. It hurts me to say that, but I think Nuggets is 7 too, just because they don't have Ant. Knicks Hawks 2-2. You got Knicks and you said
Knicks in
6.
6.
I got what I said in the beginning of the series. Knicks in 7. Spurs Trailblazers 3-1.
Get them out of there. Gentlemen sweep.
Gentlemen sweep. Yeah, if Wemby played the whole series, they would have been a real sweep. Celtics Sixers game 5 tonight. So we probably what you think? It's over or no?
It's over tonight.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a gentleman's sweep as well. Am I missing another one? Oh, Lakers Rockets. What you think that goes?
It's over tonight.
Ooh, I'm going opposite. I got the Lakers in 7 though. Lakers get by, but it takes them another game. I think, and then Pistons. We gotta talk about that one. Who you
Pistons in
got?
7.
Pistons in 7. I can't say that. I got Magic in 6.
4. All right, yo. Wait, 4. What was the stat? It was 4 out of 5 teams has come back from a 3-1 lead in the first round. You know who's on that last team that did it?
On the last team
Duncan
that
Robinson, my boy. Let's go. We gonna come back and do it. We gonna come back and do
Okay.
it.
I don't know, bro. If Jalen Duren is playing like little bro, then I can't
Word.
jack the Pistons. But yeah, that's gonna do it for another episode of Not Even D2. We appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Go follow us at Not Even D2, and we're back next week with another fire episode. So we'll see you then.